Hey friends, it's Mr. E here, and today a video for my anxious little buddies, my insecure homies. Haven't we all been in that boat at one time or another in our lives? I think it is a very real, a very human experience to have what's called imposter syndrome, to feel like you are behind the curve in some way, whether you're picking up a new hobby, you're taking on a new career profession, whether you're playing a new video game like Darktide, and especially with a video game like Darktide where it's been out for probably 20 years at this point. Everybody else that's playing this game can seem at times to know infinitely more than you do. They have so much knowledge. They know all these tricks and builds, etc., and you feel like you don't know anything in comparison. And even worse than that is you feel like players are going to find out that you're a noob, and then they're going to bully the shit out of you. They're just going to pick on you, they're going to point at you, they're going to laugh, and they're going to kick you from the game. And you're going to remember that experience. It's going to be burned into your brain. It'll be the last thing you think about before you go to sleep every night for the rest of your life. Now, fortunately for us, that is not an experience that happens in reality. However, just because it isn't real doesn't mean it can't actually impact our actions with the anxiety about that sort of thing happening, right? I know that anxiety is a real thing because it happens to me. I've seen it happen to other players out there who have just up and stopped playing Darktide because either they were just insecure about their ability to improve, or whether they were trying to push into higher difficulties and they just didn't want to take it on because they thought that other players would notice they were inadequate in some way. And I also have this fear of inadequacy, that, my skills aren't up to snuff when I'm playing on certain classes and certain characters. Of course, there's players out there that know more than I do about every single facet of the game. And so I have to, at some point, put that aside and understand that I'm performing well enough that, I can be confident that I do belong in playing like Havoc 40 or whatever. And so that's what I want to build you up to today. This will be the first in a couple of videos. I'm going to do them building up to Havoc, trying to get players to understand when they're ready for Havoc difficulty, because I think that's like the end game. If you're really, really getting into Darktide, it's becoming your fixation. But this video today is just the absolute basics, the stuff that can apply to everybody. And I think that the things that apply to everybody, the core fear for a lot of especially new players is that you're afraid you're going to commit some sort of faux pas. You're going to cross some invisible, unspoken Darktide player boundary, just fuck something up royally, and everybody's going to go, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Holy shit, and like blow up on you, and then you'll have that aforementioned terrible experience that you'll remember the rest of your life. And so, yeah, in order to assuage you that you are doing okay, in order to, tell you the stuff that you should avoid, because I'm not saying, by the way, that you can't piss other players off by sucking real bad. That can happen. But I feel like at a baseline, as long as you're doing the things I'll talk about today, or rather not doing the things I'm going to talk about today, then you're going to be good. You're going to be steering clear of the worst of it. Players aren't going to direct their ire on towards you. For the most part, if you're interested in playing Darktide, if you're leveling up and you're going on to higher difficulties, maybe you have experienced toxicity. I would be willing to bet money that it was in like the heresy to damnation ranks. That is when people tend to be the most toxic, because those players are assholes and they're hard stuck at that difficulty, and they're making it anybody else's problem but theirs. And that is what I've seen over and over. So if you've experienced that toxicity, just know that when you reach Auric and beyond, players are infinitely chill. Like, they are way more chill because they just don't even care about losing that much, right? Losing is part of the game. So yeah, you have greener pastures to look to beyond that. But let's talk about some stuff to not do, just so you are avoiding those faux pas, right? The things that just irk me and other players to the moon. And by the way, if you have any that you are thinking about that maybe I don't mention here, if you're a player who's like, you want to put that out there, hey, to all new players, can you please fucking not do this? Comment it down below, and I'll thumbs it up if I find any good ones. But let's start here. Now, the first tip up here is about matching your team's tempo, playing at the speed that your team is playing at, and that can vary from game to game. So you have to kind of read what their speed is and match with that. Because if you are rushing or you are dragging, not only are you going to piss off your jazz teacher and he's going to throw a symbol at your head, but it can also make Darktide players really angry, because there are two really bad ways to go here. If you're a rusher, if you're leading the pack and you are away from your team and pushing forward in the level, first of all, you are going to pass invisible triggers as you're progressing through this level. And those invisible triggers tell the game that you are ready for bosses. You're ready for more challenges because your team is progressing. Your line leader, the first person to cross that threshold, is the person who triggers those. So if you're playing in high difficulties like Havoc, it is full of these. So do not rush forward in Havoc unless your team is right there with you, because that is going to spawn stuff when they might not be ready. But also, as we'll talk about with dragging as well, the game can detect when you are isolated from your team. It will detect that there is a player who is out of coherency, who is away from his allies, and it will print new specials to go and attack that person in specific. So not only are you adding more specials and more disablers to the thing, but you're also probably endangering your own life, because all it takes is one misdodge on a trapper or a dog, and now you are downed and you're well away from your team, and you could even die as a result. And that's going to make them pretty dang mad. And also, just nobody likes like following around some guy who's in an uber rush to get through the level, especially if they're trying to play and learn the game and loot for resources all at the same time. You don't want someone who's just blowing through it all and it's like, come on guys, let's go. That sucks. The other one you don't want to do is drag, and this I find a lot for new players. It's players who are unaware of their surroundings. They are not paying attention to what's going on with their allies. Their allies are moving forward in the level, and they're just kind of ambling around. And yeah, like, you might not know the way with the level, but you can certainly follow with your allies. You can see where they are. They have names and shit over their head. Just stick with them if you have no idea where you're going. What you don't want to do is drag so far behind that you are becoming isolated, because yet again, the game will send stuff to target you specifically. And the number of times I've had to either just say, well, that new player is just dead now because they were in the last room we can't get back to and they got dogged or they got trappered, or maybe even worse, I have to walk my ass all the way back there for 30 seconds to get them out of the dog pin, and then they have it happen to them again 2 minutes later. That is uber frustrating, and it's the sort of thing that will make people want to yell at you to group the fuck up, and maybe that's what it takes to wake you up. But yeah, just be conscious of where everybody else is and stick with them. They can't be mad at you for rushing or dragging if you're within like 10 feet of them, right? So just play around your team, and not only does that solve this problem entirely, but it will make you win more, because a concentrated amount of firepower in one spot is just generally going to be way better at taking on the challenges the game has. Next up here is respecting your team's resources, being aware of what they are in need of to do what they need to do, right? This means stims, this means health, this means ammo, this means grenades, the stuff that you don't share. Plasteel and diamantine, those are shared resources for crafting. You don't have to worry about, anybody can pick those up, it doesn't matter, right? But for ammo and all that stuff that you need to shoot your guns and play the game, health, that sort of stuff, if you are hogging that, if you are not giving it out when other players need it, that's a great way to piss people off very quickly. I cannot count the number of times where I have been playing on a class like Ogren, where I am trying to go for a range build, I need ammo, and I've got a player on my team who's got 70% ammo, who runs in and picks up like 2 ammo packs and caps himself out when I'm at like 10%, right? So yes, the default UI in the game sucks for this. You can't tell exactly how much ammo people have. If you are playing on PC, by the way, you definitely need to look at my mods tutorial to get these mods installed and understand like the actual numeric UI and all that stuff, so you can actually see this information, because it's crucial to this game, honestly. If you're on PS5, it sucks, or you're on console in general, it sucks. You won't have that much information, but you can still see when players have like red grenades or red ammo. That means they're completely out, and you need to be not taking ammo, you need to be looking around and trying to find ammo and tagging it so they can go and get it. Because not only is that just a cool thing to do, people will remember you doing that, they'll remember that and they'll think fondly of it in the future, but you want all the other players in your team to be able to fight. And that's the problem that you can run into, is like if you're hogging ammo, if you're picking up ammo when you're at 70%, not only are you pissing off the other player, but you're probably going to lose now too, because that player was using that much ammo and now they don't have any. Their effectiveness in combat probably just went down a lot, and so you're going to be in trouble, is generally how it goes. So yeah, let's just be respectful of that. Another really important thing you can do here is, if you are not confident in your knowledge of like okay, when should I drop the ammo crate? When should I drop the med crate? That sort of stuff. Well, then you can just hand those off to other players. You can use the weapon special button. It's mouse 3 on PC. I don't know what it is on controller, but you can press that while you're holding the item to just gift it to another player. A stim, a med crate, whatever it is, as long as they're not already holding one, and they can decide when to use that instead if they look like they're a more experienced player and you don't want to have that responsibility. Because one of the worst things you could possibly do is have everyone standing around going, I need ammo, and you're just out to lunch, or everyone's dying from no HP and you haven't dropped that med crate. Yeah, using that when players need it is really important. So yeah, just make certain you're not bogarting that stuff, that you're not just gatekeeping. If you have no idea whether or not you should be taking the med station or somebody else, you know, just kind of wait by it and see if they want to take it first. Let players get first dibs if you're unconfident in that. So that's the second one there. Let's go on to number 3 here, which is all about helping allies. Oh my god, this is probably the one that irritates me more than any other. So in this game, there's a number of ways that your allies can be disabled or incapable of playing the game, right? Of course, you can be killed outright, in which case you were hogtied and put at a point further on the level. You can also be downed, right? You can lose all your health and be down, so that you can't move until someone helps you up. You can also be disabled, either by a trapper who nets you. That's a full disable that you require an ally to get out of. You can be dogged, where a dog will pin you. You also require an ally to get out of that one, albeit it's a little bit easier. And then you can also be temporarily disabled by both mutants and chaos spawns. So all of these are very, very, very high priorities for you to help those allies. In fact, it is such a high priority that it should be above literally everything else except for preserving your own life. If it will cost you HP to help an ally up, you should do it. If it will cost you every health point you have except for 1, but it would mean saving this ally's life versus them dying in this situation, you should do it. Because an extra player is worth infinitely more than some health is, right? An extra player, losing a player and not having them for 5 minutes, not only does that suck for them and they don't get to play, which sucks, but it's going to cause you to lose. Not having 4 players in a 4-player game, that's going to make it way more difficult, and you're probably going to lose from that point. The number of times where I have seen players just simply stand by and watch because they wouldn't take the risk to put themselves out there or to step in a little bit of fire in order to get the ally up or to get the rescue is astronomical. And there's probably nothing more infuriating in the game than being trapped in a net or some very easy thing to get out of where players just aren't helping you. So let's go over all of them, starting at the temporary disables. We have the mutant and the chaos spawn. So the chaos spawn is a boss, so it's not going to occur all the time, but when the chaos spawn comes in, he can do this grab. If a player gets grabbed, the chaos spawn will hold them for, it feels like about a century, and during that century he will gnaw on them like a chicken leg, and he will regain health during this, and your ally will take damage. Also, while they're being held, they can be killed by fire and stuff that's underneath them. So yeah, take out any bombers and stuff if you can't, like, you know, immediately get to them. But the way you can release your ally is just by getting near enough to the chaos spawn that he swings at you. And when he swings at you, just make certain you walk up and just hold block so that he hits your block instead of hitting you in the face, and get ready to get knocked back because it will throw you back a good distance. But that will cause him to throw your ally in the next couple seconds, which will then get them back into the combat, which is awesome. So you can, if you're at RBDs, by the way, the dog can also do this. If the dog gets on the chaos spawn, he'll do the same thing. Now, the other one that's temporary here is the mutant. The mutant has a grab where he runs into you and then he pounds you on the floor. If you're quick, you can go ahead and kill that mutant, or you can stun the mutant with some sort of stunning effect like shout or taunt to stop him from slamming your ally on the floor. Generally very appreciated, and it stops him from being thrown in a random direction as well, which can be life-saving. Next up is the, the sort of more notorious disables, the dog. The dog can pin allies. They can't get the dog off. You have to get it off for them. Fortunately, the dog is a very, very easy stagger. Once he's on them, you can shoot him off. You can use any sort of venting shriek or shout or stagger effect to knock this boy off, and he'll go running away. That'll stop the dog from eating your ally's face. The trapper net, on the other hand, is one that players are notorious for ignoring. So trappers will grab your allies, they'll yank them towards you, or towards themselves, and pull them away from your team. And what I see more often than anything is players have this temptation that, oh, trapper bad, I must kill the trapper. So they'll run forward, stand directly on top of your body and proceed to stab or try to shoot the trapper. Whether or not they're successful, it doesn't matter, because every second you're on that floor is another second where, God forbid, a flamer shows up or a firebomb lands on your feet, and now you're getting cooked to death. And everything can also hit you when you're in the trap. It can and will target you and kill you when you're trapped. So when an ally gets trapped, you should pull out all stops to get to them, start shoving stuff like pushing it, or using your effects that can knock allies back or enemies back such that things can't swing on them, draw attention away from them, and then help them up immediately. Even if the trapper is standing immediately in front of them, your priority should be helping that ally out of the net, because you don't know if in that 1 millisecond something is going to happen that's going to prevent you from getting the net off of them in the next, and that could automatically turn into a death. So yeah, help your ally first and then turn to killing the trapper or whatever. It's going to be fine. And that, by the way, is the first of these things that is affected by what I'm going to say here, and hopefully you'll drill it into your head. The most important thing you can add to your gear in the game, ally revive speed. It is a curio talent. It's a curio perk. Goes on the bottom 3 things in your curios, and this is something that you will see very experienced, many thousands of hours playing with. Why? Because it simply makes the difference. Having an ally up versus not being able to get the ally up, getting that extra 1.5 seconds cut off of there can make all the difference in the game. It will save games, whereas no other talent like that can. So ally revive speed is super important in that sense. So that can help you get the allies out of the trapper net up to 36% faster, which is a lot, even though trapper nets are already pretty fast. Okay, then we're gonna go on to the lethal ones, right? The ones where your ally can't do anything until they are helped. So that is dangling off a ledge, being downed, and being hogtied, meaning you need to be rescued later in the level. So dangling off a ledge and being downed are very similar, right? You are incapacitated in either sense. You can't do anything. The ally has a pretty long channel to get you back up on your feet. Dangling off a ledge is obviously precarious for the allies. So they need to be making certain that they aren't positioning themselves to get knocked out themselves. And also, being downed is, of course, if you're downed in a position, the enemies are probably already right there attacking you. The ally has to be careful not to expose themselves getting you up. However, this is another place where that revive speed is absolutely clutch, because doing this 36% faster means your exposure to damage is that much less, and it can make all the difference in getting the ally up before a flame grenade lands right there. One thing that I have to say here is when you go in to get an ally up, you can start the revive animation while you're sliding. You can slide in, I'll demonstrate it in the footage here, but you can slide in and start to revive the ally without actually being able to see the interact bar. So just hold down that interact key and you'll start to do it. That's a great way, and also looks swag as hell. And also, while you're helping an ally up, whether you're helping them up from a ledge or whether they're down, position your camera to look towards enemies. When you are helping an ally up, by default, you are blocking. So that block is going to be more effective and take less of your stamina when you're facing towards enemies, which means you're not going to get your block broken, which means you can help the ally all the way up. So that is so important. You should make that your priority above all else. There was nothing more infuriating in this game than allies who are too chicken shit, who are unafraid or too afraid of risking their life a little bit to get an ally back to their feet, who are just going to let them die and hope they can get them later. Put your neck out there and get your ally up. At least make a good college try at doing it. And then finally, the hog tying, getting allies up at a later point in the level. That is so important, right? Being down a player in any sense is critical. Being a three-man into a 4-man game is devastating. If you are remotely close to that ally resurrection point, don't dilly-dally, right? Don't just be like, oh, let's take another horde here. Let's just stand here and take another horde, okay? First of all, boring as hell for the player who's dead. Second of all, every moment that you are spending without that player is another moment where the game can come in and fuck you because you don't have enough players to take it on. And this is like triply, quadruply true in Havoc. So you should be pushing yourself towards that revive point. And if you see an opening to go and get it, if you've got someone on your team who can stall and get the enemies off of that point, and you can make a break for it and get that ally up, it is always worth it to get that last person back in the crew. So yeah, just everything else is behind helping your allies in some way. Killing enemies is not the important thing in the game. It's keeping your allies alive, because then you can all kill the enemies together. Yay. All right. And that's the last really big one I have. The last one I want to touch on here is just being honest about your own skill level, right? I said at the beginning that a lot of players are scared of moving up to higher difficulties because they don't want to get called out for being scrubs or whatever. I understand that not everyone is capable of becoming a world-class Darktide player like I am, that many people are just forever destined to be scrubs. Some people are unsalvageably bad, but that doesn't mean that you should be pushing yourself into higher difficulties if you were just, becoming a floor examiner over and over and over and over again. If that's your experience in Darktide, if that's just how your games are going, it's okay to step it down, is what I'll say. Be honest with yourself about your own skill level. If you are getting absolutely creamed and game after game you were just getting destroyed trying to play Havoc, trying to play Auric, perhaps it isn't for you at this time and you should step it down to a lower difficulty. You're going to be putting yourself through unnecessary stress, and at the end of the day, like players do need to have competent teammates at whatever difficulty they're playing at. So yeah, just be honest about like what you're actually prepared for. You can certainly, by no means am I saying don't attempt higher difficulties once you've cleared a good amount of lower ones. But just because the game opens up a higher difficulty for you doesn't mean that that is the new difficulty you should be only playing at. So yeah, find one that is comfortable for you, that you're winning at least like 50% of the time, and yeah, chill there until it becomes the difficulty that you're winning like 90% of the time, right? That's how I would sort of advise you to go forward. And that's everything, guys. So in summary, right, sticking with your team, more or less. Don't rush, don't drag. Look at your team and evaluate what sort of resources they need. Do they need health? Do they need ammo? Do they need grenades? Do they need perhaps a stim? You could help them out in that regard, or you could just cede that resource to them. You should be looking at all junctures to help your allies whenever possible, whether they're on the floor, whether they're just pinned by a dog or trapped by a trapper or grabbed by a chaos spawn. Try to get them free so they can play the game and not be disabled, not be dead, and don't dilly-dally in the process. Don't try to pad your stats while they're dying, and don't insert yourself into a difficulty that's going to make it miserable for you and for everybody else, because yeah, it's just gonna suck. So overall, I mean, what do all these say at a massive level? The big takeaway here is just be conscious, right? Just be aware of what's going on. Perhaps the worst players to play Darktide with are the people who are just hitting the bong and then playing Darktide, because they are so oblivious to what's going on. Like, those are the worst players, who are just like, where is my team? I don't know. They're just doing what they're on autopilot. That is the worst. That's the worst experience. So just be conscious, be aware, be trying to understand the information that's in front of you, stay with your team, all that stuff, and you'll be in a much better spot, and no one should be able to genuinely be mad at you. Okay, guys. Well, if you enjoyed this one, look out for the next one, which will be tailored around how you should be developing your skills and pushing yourself to be a better player with any class, and get yourself ready for those higher difficulties I'm talking about, like Damnation and Auric. All right, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Mystery out. Bye-bye.